Bahami family, Facebook family. Welcome to our weekly or bi-weekly broadcast from the temple, the Temple of Divine Understanding, headquarters, St. Louis, Missouri. We have a wonderful presentation for you today. Our presentation, and the title of our presentation will be The Life of a Nation. And Astamari, or the enlightener for our lecture, is Sheikh Amsi Manura. Please stand up and welcome Sheikh Amsi Manura.
Good morning, one and all. Good morning to you all of the viewing audience. It's cold in St. Louis this morning. So those of you who are viewing and listening in, I hope you are warm and comfortable and have a keen ear. But most important, have a keen mind. So, good morning to you all this morning. And to my brothers and sisters in the temple this morning. Salam alaikum kamu.
Salam alaikum kamu.
Salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
As Priest Rahotep informed you all, this morning's lecture is entitled The Life of a Nation. And not just the black nation, the Hamite nation. Because I'm sure all of us would agree that the world today is in a very difficult situation. But all of you, if we all work together, we can change, we can rectify the tribulation that's going on in the world today. So give an understanding ear to what's being presented to you this morning. La ilaha illallah, fahami rasul lillahira. Understanding is faham. In this age, for the African American, the Ethiopian, this fact cannot be emphasized enough. When you use or exercise proper understanding, you are implementing fahami. You are implementing fahami. To think correctly, to act correctly in the pursuit of righteousness and peace is fahami. A properly educated, cultured, and courteous people make for a beautiful society when it stresses the spiritual. Good manners come from the civilized person who doesn't fail to perform their duties. Just think with proper understanding. Whatever religious background you are from, a Christian background, Jewish background, Catholic background, if you exercise the proper understanding, whatever religious background you are from, you are exercising fahami. So as our holy prophet informs us, become annexed and let us have a United States of religion, or a United States of religious minds. He informs us that he has gone deep into humanity's past and high into the spiritual realms. And he gives us the key to the problem. The keys to enlightenment are being presented to the black race for their upliftment and benefit by the culture prophet of the race, the Honorable Paul N. Johnson, the Fahami Rasul. Amun-Ra has blessed him with many gifts and talents: oratory, writing, clear visions, and languages. Fahami has suffered much persecution, but Amun-Ra has given us, has given you, Fahamis, the victory. A thing unheard of before, the advent of this prophet and teacher. Amen. Know this, all are sons and daughters of God or heaven, regardless of race, creed, color, or place of birth. And the righteous shall dwell in the paradise of God, which is Daru Salam, Alu in furrows, in blessed contentment forever. All means everybody in the world. No matter what creed you are, it doesn't matter what color you are, it doesn't matter where you were born. All are from God. Understand this. And in the book of Isis and other books, it is written, man has become God, and God has become man. And man and God are one. And the sons of God married the daughters of men, and men and their offspring were the greatest among men. Your wife is to you like your soul, and like your soul to you is your husband. Peace and prosperity go together. So let there be peace in your family, and joy and happiness is assured. The heathens and the savages and the pagans and sinners among you are those who carry guns to shoot and kill one another. They fight their wives, and the wives fight their husbands. They hate their own people and the law of the land. They do not go to the temples, but they fight everything. So respect your good ancestors and the people of the present, and your fathers and mothers, and keep clean in body and in mind. The heathens and pagans and savages and sinners among you are those who get drunk, talk vulgar, loud in speech, raving, and cursing. These are the infidels, the lost. The ignorant among you are those teach your children good manners and provide them with food. And when they are old enough, let them help provide the fresh meat and the bread and the fruit and the milk and everything. And teach them to make shoes and clothing and medicine and nursing hygiene and housing telepathy, communications, building and navigation. And Fahami is Ra of the air. Wings represents the physical spirit of God, which is air, the breath of life. Fahamira Rasul. All adverse conditions are accidental and temporary and cannot permanently deflect the course of history and your deep-rooted and magnificent culture. Fahamira Rasul. That means concerning the weather. If you have earthquakes, cyclones, tornadoes, floods, poverty, wars, fighting, people, all of these things are temporary if you have understanding and do things that you have to do to right them. These are temporary conditions, and they cannot permanently, and they will, because our deep-rooted and our magnificent culture is in place. Nothing can change that. Everything will right itself in time. So be patient and do not despair. The name of Kim, in whom strength and vigor and love and joy doth vibrate and abound. The light of lights, all powerful yet serene, a witness to the majesty of God, and Kim is Ham. Fahamira Rasul. You must understand all religions, all cultures, are but the history of the people that it was carried to. Bear in mind that all cultures, once again, all religions, because religion is culture and culture is religion. So bear in mind, all religions, all cultures are but the worship of God coupled with the worship of someone's ancestors. The Holy Quran cannot be the African American's final spiritual guide any more than can the Holy Bible be the African American's final spiritual guide. Here again, and please remember, a properly educated, cultured, and courteous people make a beautiful society when it is spiritual. Good manners come from the civilized people who do not fail to perform their duty. The Ethiopians, African Americans, must create and produce. The principle of reaction is the law of vital life phenomena. Once again, the principle of reaction is the law of vital or life phenomena. Everything everything that appears is the effect of reaction. Every organism lives only because of its faculty for reaction. Neither food nor medication can stimulate or heal without this reaction. Sound, life, all the effects of energy are reaction. Nothing can grow without reaction. Changes in the social order, nations, cities, cultures, whether natural or artificial, are reaction. Reaction is a modification. It is the product of action in this sense of dualization. Dualization, it takes two. Remember that, it takes two. In the reaction, there is the child who stems from the action of the father and mother. The child represents the reaction. The life impulse and the substance which receives the impulse and produces the living body. We must build, we must create the proper substance to produce a dynamic Ethiopian black city with naturally progressive natures, as it was in times past. We must build progressive black nations, not just sitting back letting somebody do it for us. We must do it ourselves. And in the early day, that is the early day between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m., that is the time of the lunar light, which is a reflected light. The substance in which the action or the active solar day can then continue. Could natural fire exist without fuel? Fire without fuel is the causal cause. It is the fire that burneth not. We must conduct salat or prayer and learn to counteract the things that are being imposed upon us. The gods of the other nations are forsaking the Hamites to promote their own welfare and being. We must counteract them with natural selection. If they do not want you in their cities, build yourselves a city. If you are not wanted in their hotels, build yourself some of those. The same goes for hospitals, restaurants, and schools. Build your own schools and set up a complete educational system of your own, based upon an ancestral civilization and a culture of your own. We are the Ja'ize, the gods, the sons and daughters of ancient kings and queens. We are the sons of the gods. Speak up for yourselves in the name of liberty, freedom, and justice. And pray for the spirit of Liali to be upon the liars, and pray for the spirit and the curse of Liali to be upon the liars and the oppressors of the Kemites. or the Ethiopians. O my beloved sons and daughters of Ethiopia, hear now and understand this. Just as the sun calls forth life out of the dead earth of spring and summer, just so may we indeed call forth the spirits of our ancestors from this very soil here beneath our feet. The invisible forces are ready to aid in times of peril, trouble, and uncertainty. When you travel upon the rolling seas, be not afraid. Many of our ancestors lay in the mud and slime on the floors of the ocean. Their spirits will rise up to rescue you from the depth of the sea. No place on earth is there that has not been made holy by the soles of our ancestors' feet. The earth is the resting place, the sleeping place of the spirits, but they travel on the wings of the wind. When our persecution gets a little harder, we too shall be forced to call up our gods from the earth. Life, misfortune, isolation, abandonment, all of these things are battlefields which have their heroes. Heroes that may be obscure, but sometimes greater than those who become illustrious. In like manner, the Fahamis should struggle, and with the same bravery, against those invasions of necessity and baseness, which come to nations as well as to men. We should meet them too, toe to toe, even in darkness, and protest against the wrongs and follies being done against our nation. We should protest against the wrong when we see it and recognize it being wrong, the wrongs that are being done to our people. We should protest against usurpation and tyranny. There is no more sovereign eloquence than to protest with truth and righteousness against wrongs, against injustice that has been done to you and your people. It is more difficult for people to keep than to gain their freedom. You can get your freedom, but then you have to keep it. The protests of truth are always needed. Continually, the righteous must protest against this fact. The fact being, in this case, injustice. We must continually protest against injustice. Truth and righteousness are eternal. The Fahamis must be sheikhs, imams, priestesses, and soldiers of that righteousness. If their nation should be robbed of her liberties, they must not despair. The protest of the righteous against tyranny persists forever. The robbery, the injustices of our people pop up everywhere throughout history. Reclamation of our rights is barred by no length of time. It's always throughout history people have rose up doing dirt Keep on fighting. Keep on struggling. There is no limit on it. Don't give up. There's no limit on the time that you have to struggle against tyranny. Keep on struggling. Don't give up. Our people must endure military. Our people may endure military usurpation and be subjugated and waver under the stress of necessity. But when that necessity disappears, if the nation is fit to be free, the submerged nation will float to the surface and reappear, and tyranny be adjudged in history to have murdered its victims. Straighten up history. Don't anybody lie. Let truth be told. And if you are strong, if you are brave, and you are righteous, you will surface. As all holy writings say, truth crushed the earth shall rise again. Faith is the incentive to work, and works are faith made manifest. To have faith is to believe, and to believe is to be without doubt. Everyone becomes a true student to learn and to know, according to the strength of their faith in Fahami, which is the ideal. It is not possible to be imbued with a thought for any length of time without the personification of that thought in one form or another. African civilization reached its zenith in Ethiopia and Egypt, or Cush or Ham. Since that time, we have strayed away from the true religion of our forefathers, the religion of Isis, Il, and An, our noble ancestors. Our holy Fahami Rasul has called the so-called Negroes to a great revival of the ancient culture of the black race, without violence or hatred towards none. The revival of culture. He named this culture Fahami, or divine understanding. And he informs us to reject the gods of those who will assume that they are our so-called superiors. He informs us that no religion in today's world has treated the Hamite, the black, with equity and sound judgment in its spirituality or its historical viewpoint. Wonderful is the land, wonderful is the people, overshadowed by the wings of Ra, bordered by the rivers of Ethiopia. We are the children of the sun, sons and daughters of Jaize, gods and goddesses who rule the world for over 50,000 years. Your God is Amen, the faithful and true. Learn to know your own saints, your own Savior, and sons of God, black history, philosophy, language, salvation, and theology from creation up to now. You should join the Church of the Hamites and read your own holy books and carry your heads high like other nations, because you were created of God, gods and goddesses, And you made man in your image and likeness, because Ham, which is Africa, is the father of all mankind. Within the great circle of the universe, the concentric cycles of time are ever revolving and evolving as its center or source creates and recreates itself. For God and man are one and the same thing. The original beings of heaven and earth are returning to reestablish the celestial things in the earth. As above, so below. And the sons of Africa, which is Ham or Kim, were Cush, which is Ethiopia, Mizraim, which is Egypt, Futa, which is Arabia, Canaan, which is Palestine. From these, the world was populated. Every man should own a home and estate. To every man his own vine and fig tree. There is room enough on this earth for all. Culture is the soul of a people, their entire existence and being, from their beginning on up to their end. We can find some of our history scattered all over the world, and some who has it thinks it is their very own. We today are encountered with propaganda concerning the brotherhood of man. The brotherhood of man will come when we forget this race and that race and recognize only the human race. The Fahamira Rasul are enlightened, the only man with a solution to race problems. The heritage of a people are those of his ancestors who led them and taught them to be themselves. Truthfully speaking, we are taught to believe in the traditions and heritages of other nations. Health is man's right, given him when born of healthy parents and attained by him through knowledge. Prosperity is the result of attraction. Prosperity is man's right and divine privilege. Happiness means prosperity and in money. Happiness means health. Happiness means power to direct, power to control, and power to will and become. All are from God, and to him all must return when they die. Truly, one race and one culture does not make a great nation. All races and creeds and nations have a right to the good things of life. Everybody who's on the face of this earth have a divine, God-given right to the things of this earth. Unity and peace between white and black can be had through understanding. Fahami means understanding and divine culture. Both white and black must be educated out of their racial bigotry and ignorance. Let it be understood that your race and your religion is the same thing. Yeah. And your culture means